Yo, what's going on guys? Welcome to the Dabs of Reality YouTube channel. I'm your host Tom CRAWSHAW and I'm going to be reviewing DMT, the Spirit Molecule documentary in this video. So I'm going to basically break down what is an hour, 10-minute documentary into about a 15-20 minute video. So you can get all the good stuff out of the documentary without having to sit through the entire thing. And if you want to go through the entire thing, the link is in the description. It's obviously going to have a little bit more detail in than this video, but I just want to encapsulate the main ideas and why it was so impactful for me and inspired me to go on my own journey and try DMT myself, which I've shared in another one of these videos, which I will be linking on the screen somewhere, and also the link will be in the description. And also at the end of this video there's going to be some really interesting revelations that I'm going to sort of take from the documentary to share with you, so make sure you stay tuned until then, because that's really one of the best bits of the whole documentary. So if you're new here to the channel, I massively appreciate you hitting that red button down there and subscribe to the channel so you get more awesome videos like these. I talk about spirituality, science, and my own life experience, and just share those stories with you, share the information and the knowledge that has worked for me. And if you're a returning subscriber, thanks for tuning in again. Appreciate your time today. And as you're going through this video, make sure to drop me a comment below and let's open up the conversation. If you've got questions or you want some clarity, make sure you drop a comment in there and hit that like button to make sure that I know that you're enjoying this video. Now, one thing I do want to mention before we get into the video today is the 12-minute guided meditation. It's a free download that I've put together. The link is in the description. So if you're interested in or you're curious about what can meditation do for you and some of the benefits, then I would definitely recommend checking that out. It's a visualization that will help you turn your vision into your reality. So that's dabsofreality.com/free meditation. So let's get into today's video, which is all about DMT, the Spirit Molecule documentary. I'm going to go through and share what I feel were some of the key points in this documentary. Now, it was made back in 2010, so it's a bit of an oldie, but this is when DMT and the psychedelics finally started being lifted from the ban of the 60s and the 70s. So we're going to get into that a little bit later in this video, but Rick Straussman is a real pioneer in this space, and he was one of the first guys of recent times to actually do some studies on the DMT experience. So we're going to get into that also in this video. So the documentary starts with basic definitions of what is DMT. So DMT is a psychoactive compound called dimethyltryptamine. Now, DMT is found in the human body, it's found in the brain, it's found in plants, it's found in animals, it's almost ubiquitous amongst nature.
Biosynthetically, it's 2 steps from tryptophan. Right, 2 trivial enzymatic steps from tryptophan. Well, tryptophan is an amino acid, of course, and it's everywhere. So all organisms have tryptophan, and all organisms have the 2 key enzymes that lead to the synthesis of DMT.
Now, this is a really interesting thing to note. Why is it in the human body? Why is it in animals? Why is it in plants? Well, one of the theories is this is the communication pathway for plants. That DMT is the language of plants. Now, this is really interesting because if plants, animals, and humans, we all have this endogenous DMT in our systems, or we all at least have the capacity to create that DMT inside our systems. Is DMT the connection that we have with all things, with all plants, with all animals? And if you try the substance yourself, you will certainly experience on a very visceral level this connection to all things. So there's a bit of a duality created here with DMT, is that we've got the molecule, we've got the molecular biology of this compound, and we also have the spiritual element as well. And these things come together in a really important union. And this is where humans can actually have the experience and bring back the knowledge, the wisdom, the insights, and expand their own self-awareness. So this is really a tool, it's a gateway tool that allows us to go deeper into ourselves, experience this connection with all things, and hopefully bring back some shreds of knowledge and wisdom that we can actually apply in our own life. Now, you may have heard of the pineal gland. Now, this is a gland that exists right in the center of our brain. And scientists are a little bit mystified by the properties of this important gland. First of all, it's right directly inside the center of our brain. And this could be the center that may produce the endogenous DMT inside our bodies. And perhaps DMT is even the mediator between life and death. Now, I don't know the exact science on how DMT operates in the brain, but I have heard that DMT is released into the system at a time around birth, and it also is released in the system when we die. So is this a spirit molecule that mediates between life and death? A really interesting question to consider. And it's also important to note that people in deep meditation, people who've been practicing meditation for years, even decades, have been able to have a DMT-like experience, a crazy psychedelic adventure where you feel one with all things. You feel your heart open up and this massive surge of love just spread out into the world around you. So this means that we all have the capacity to generate a DMT-like experience without the need for any kind of external substance. But how we trigger this DMT-like experience is something that people have been looking into and researching. There's theories where we can contract our muscles up our spine and try and force the cerebral fluid to put pressure onto our pineal gland. And when stress and pressure is applied to the pineal gland, it may activate the DMT-like experience. Then you can also practice deep meditation. That's going to take years, potentially even decades, and you need to sit in that space without any expectation that that's going to happen to you. So let's talk a moment about the action of the drug. So pure DMT can either be smoked or injected intravenously. It has a rapid onset and a short duration of action. And this is because of the MAO. So when DMT enters the system, it can enter the bloodstream and affect the brain and the body, but it gets broken down very quickly by the MAO inside our system. So within 10 to 15 minutes, you're back on this planet and you're able to digest and process the experience.
The DMT flash makes it clear that disembodied consciousness is a possibility. I think that the whole tension of history and the tension of life seems to be about the shedding of the body.
Another compound that you've probably heard of if you're watching this video is ayahuasca, and that's the orally active compound that combines a vine and a leaf. So one of these plants has the MAO inhibitor. So by definition, the action of the MAO in our system is inhibited, and the MAO is what will break down the DMT. So this gives an experience of 5, 6, 7, 8 hours, depending on the strength of the brew. Now, this is a spiritual practice that dates back thousands of years to the Amazonian tribes in the rainforest. How they came across the idea to combine a certain root or a certain vine with a certain plant, I have no idea. But it happened, and now ayahuasca is getting more popular in the West as a medicine for healing. So let's talk about DMT in society. Now, DMT is a psychedelic. It's a Schedule 1, a Class A drug in the UK, Schedule 1 in the US, and it's illegal in pretty much most countries in the world. Why is this? Now, DMT was made illegal around the 60s and the 70s, I believe, and this is when the mass hysteria and the panic was caused in this psychedelic revolution. You know, people were taking these substances and they were thinking outside of the box. They were threatening the political systems at the time, which then forced them to put these drugs in a box. The powers that be at the time decided to schedule them and classify them as illegal substances to try and squash and reduce this movement that was happening that was threatening society as we know it. And I would argue that it was threatening society in a good way because people were thinking for themselves. They were getting inspiration, they were getting wisdom and knowledge, and they were using this to come up with ideas that were very contradictory to the political system and the way things were done at that time. Now, the real tragedy here for the classification and criminalization of these substances was the fact that we weren't allowed to do scientific research to explore the possible benefits and actions of effect of these compounds. So these compounds got shelved for 40 years. And anyone who dared to try and do some research or even talk about the mere idea of testing these compounds was ridiculed in the community. Now, that was until Rick Straussman came into the picture. Now, Rick is the writer of DMT, the Spirit Molecule. You can get the book. I'm sure there's a bunch more information and detail inside the book, but this is what the documentary is based upon. Now, Rick was a real pioneer. He was one of the first guys after this illegal classification of the psychedelic compounds to actually do some scientific studies, specifically on DMT.
The drug or the compound or the chemical that seemed like the best candidate to sort of reopen the U.S. Front on psychedelic research would be DMT.
It was really, it's exciting for me because I thought this is the first study in a generation. And not only that, despite the fact that DMT had been used safely in earlier studies and it was this natural component of the brain, DMT is one of the most profound and potent psychedelics known. So it wasn't just an initiation of clinical research, it was a reinitiation of clinical research with an extremely potent drug.
And he actually got FDA approval to run the study. Now, obviously the FDA had certain parameters that he had to report under, so they advised him to make sure to look at blood pressure, changes in heart rate, and all these kinds of basic physiological functions. What Rick was really interested in was what was going on in the mind of the participants, because this is where the magic happens. Now, Rick obviously took some additional measurements and recorded the stories of the accounts that the participants had through the experience. And that's what you're gonna see clips of in this video.
The countdown was like, counting down for preparing for your death, like waiting to surrender. And you'd feel the coldness, and the coldness just going through your veins, and it's really indescribable. It's hard to, it's like ice going through your veins. And the next thing that would happen, besides my racing heart, is this burning sensation would happen on the back of my neck. This was reliable. This is like clockwork. This happened every time that you shot me up with DMT. And then there'd be a hum, and the hum would get louder and louder, and to the point where it broke apart everything that I was or knew. It was just this, it just got louder and louder until you just had to surrender to the sound. And then you were there.
So the study had a massive importance on set and setting. Now, the participants were all in a very safe environment. They had a sitter, so someone to watch over them throughout the experience, and they received the DMT intravenously. If you've ever tried to smoke DMT, you'll know that it actually is not that easy. Your heart is pounding and you're trying to take all this smoke into your lungs without coughing. It's a pretty intense experience, and that will lead to two things. One, you either waste a bunch of DMT by coughing and blowing it out, or you don't quite take enough because you're already tripping and you don't want to go for a second hit. So intravenous is obviously the best way to do it. It's the easiest method to control the amount that people get. So there's some fascinating testimonies, and again, this is all subjective experience, but they all seem to describe something very similar.
And there was no I, there was just a sense of a witness being suspended in this incredible vaulted space, like a cathedral made out of stained glass of all imaginable colors. Unbelievable brilliance and saturation of color. Just this amazing pattern in this dome, this gigantic dome. It felt like, the size of a small planet. And there were these winged beings. I don't remember exactly what they looked, but were like angels, something like angels, that were majestically kind of flying through the space. But there was something about the quality of how they were flying that was unique. I'd never seen anything like it. It was like, I don't know, the sense of another realm that was there.
So ultimately, the conclusion of this scientific experiment into what is DMT and how does it affect the human mind is we're actually dealing with a spiritual phenomenon here that is not explained scientifically.
It's the brain that helps us to process all this information and to create for us a rendition of what our world is all about. But we're trapped within that brain. However, in spiritual experiences where people feel that they get beyond the self, in certain types of psychedelic experiences where you have incredible sensory and other types of phenomena, people really feel like they are able to kind of get outside of their brain. We have to take a very big look at what is going on within them when they have the experience and try to understand how it happens physiologically and try to make sense of it from the subjective perspective as well as from the objective perspective. I don't think you can just say, let's just explain it away on the basis of science.
So when people take DMT in a high enough dose, which is what they did in this experiment, people almost universally experience entities, spirit guides, angels, some kind of extra dimensional being in the trip. So this begs the question that does DMT transport us in some way to some different dimension where we're able to interact with other beings? Is there another objective reality out there that we can only experience through ingesting this compound? And really the same can be said for other psychedelics as well. You get the same kind of feeling that you are essentially out of your body and you're experiencing something that is real, is tangible, but is really difficult to explain. So in the documentary, there is a really interesting mathematician, and he asks some really important questions. What is reality? Reality is composed now, scientists believe, mainly of dark matter and dark energy. Now, what is this? And this kind of leads us down the path to what is consciousness, but we don't really have time to explore that in this video.
So what is the nature of reality and what is the nature of how we as human beings experience it? Can we understand it better? Are we capable of understanding reality on some very fundamental levels? And what do we need to do in order to prepare for that?
But really another way of thinking about it is the brain is a receiver of consciousness. DMT is perhaps altering the way we perceive reality. Maybe it's tuning us in to a different frequency, a different radio station that we don't usually have access to. And I think really the main implication of this experiment was the fact that science and spirituality need to come together, because there's merit in both areas of research, and there's a lot of materialist, reductionist scientists who will never in their entire life entertain the idea of a spiritual reality, but the evidence for extrasensory phenomenon is stacking up day after day, year after year. So it's unavoidable that these two areas are going to have to merge and marry. And that's really where I see the cutting edge. When scientists start to do more research and more study on the nature of consciousness, the nature of reality, and how psychedelics interact with this phenomenon, I think this is really where the leaps in science are going to be made over the next few years.
Are these experiences, spiritual experiences or otherwise, are they created by physiological processes, or is the brain itself responding to something that's going on? And the fact that somebody may actually find a way of turning on their brain to spiritual experiences, again, I'm not sure that necessarily diminishes the reality or the realness of what those experiences are about.
Now, another interesting figure who was featured in the documentary is Graham Hancock. Now, he's a well-known published author with many books, fiction and non-fiction, and he's had many ayahuasca journeys. And here's something that he was quoted saying.
We have severed our connection to spirit. That's what our society has done. It has sought to persuade us that the material realm is the only realm, and the only way we're going to recover is to reconnect with spirit. And I truly believe we need the help of the plants in order to do that.
Now, I'm just going to wrap things up by saying this. We have a capacity to experience both a spiritual reality, whether it's through deep meditation or whether that's through substances like psychedelics. And we also have the capacity to experience a physical reality as well. So we have this duality, we have this internal reality, this subjective experience that can experience an elevated level of reality, a spiritual realm. And we also have the capacity to exist in this physical reality and do our day-to-day. So I think psychedelics are a really important area of research. Fortunately today, psychedelics are being taken more seriously, and there's a lot of study happening in the fields of MDMA and depression, PTSD. We've got mushrooms, psilocybin assisting with depression. We have ayahuasca and DMT also assisting with PTSD. And it looks like these compounds are having some really fascinating therapeutic effects. And this is perhaps why these substances, particularly ayahuasca, has been used for thousands of years in the Amazon. It's this healing brew that allows you to purge through all your insecurities, your doubts, and your struggles, and hopefully shed a new light on your life. So all in all, this documentary was a fascinating watch. I remember watching this maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago when I first had my first DMT experience. And since then, this whole world has opened up. We now have the scientific research and the literature that demonstrates a therapeutic effect. We now have this explosion of people trying psychedelics and ayahuasca and going on these journeys, and the massive benefit it also has had on people. Now, once again, I'm just going to warn you, I don't advocate or condone the use of psychedelics. That's not what this video is all about. You have your own personal choices to make, and you need to make sure that that is in alignment with the laws of the country that you're in. But if this video interests you and you want to go deeper into DMT, and if you want to hear about my experience, I've done another video on what happened on my very first experience with DMT, so that will be linked in the description, and there'll be a bar flashing across the screen with the link to that video in right now. So listen, I'm just about to wrap up this video. Appreciate you watching all the way this far until the end. If you've enjoyed this video and you have something that you want to comment on, please drop me a comment below. If you've not subscribed, hit the subscribe button, and until next time guys, I'll catch you on the flip side. Peace. Thank you so much for watching this video today. I know your time is extremely valuable, so if you've enjoyed today's content, please consider subscribing and clicking that notification bell so you get a notification next time I release another one of these videos. You can also leave me a comment below and let me know what part of this video resonated the most with you, or simply click that like button to let me know you enjoyed this content. And if you want to get your hands on a free 12-minute guided meditation that I recorded to help you manifest your dreams and create whatever you want in your life, go ahead and click the link in the description for your free download. And if you want to check out all the latest blog posts on my blog, dabsofreality.com, the link is down there below as well, along with my Instagram and my Facebook page if you want to consider following me on those platforms. Until next time, catch you on the flip side.